very, very quickly that sustainability meant survival. Even as a young man, I remember going fishing and hunting with my dad, and that was pretty cool as a young guy to be able to do that. But we also had our own gardens. We had cows, we had chickens. You know, and if we were lucky, you had vineyards as well, so you could have wine. I didn't have wine as a young guy, but certainly I watched all the adults have plenty of wine. That was a lot of fun as a young guy to watch that. So, you know, we drilled our own wells for water as well. And I grew up with an understanding that sustainability meant taking care of earth and taking care of the water around you, because it's important to us. Fast forward that to 40 years later or so, and living here in Whittier, and what do I do to reduce my footprint, and what do I do to actually put what I know into action? Because I think, you know, we could all be really smart about these things, but unless we put them into action, then what are we doing? We're just talking and not really walking the walk. So I think you have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Myself, I'm a builder. That's what I do for a living. And so some of these great, cool roof methodologies that you've brought to us, we know about them, and we're trying to implement that into our own building practices. At one time, I ran a couple of publicly owned companies. One of them was Richmond American Homes, and we built about 23,000 homes a year nationally. And imagine the kind of input, the kind of impact, I should say, that you have on an entire nation and the world when you're building 23,000 homes a year. And we weren't by far the largest building company. But I can tell you the reason that we didn't put a lot of these great construction methodologies into place was because of money. And you hate to use this as an example, but it is. It's because there wasn't enough money in the bottom line to use some of these great construction methodologies to, you know, better the environment. That's changing right now. That's changing because the products are becoming more affordable. And the best thing about all of it is that awareness. Now what we have is we have a whole generation that expects to have cool homes and green homes. They expect to have cool streets. I'm building a 104-unit student housing project right now up in the Inland Empire, and we're using cool deck material. What that is actually what you were talking about, Jonathan. It's a decking material that goes on the pool decks and the sidewalks, and it cools everything down. We're also using some form of cool roof. It's not exactly the same product we were talking about, but we're using that also. And the great thing is the next generation expects that out of this generation. My generation, we're still working through it. We haven't really bought into it. We haven't adapted completely. We talk about it. I drive a Prius, but I also have a big truck, right? And I don't go around telling everybody that, but I do because I like to pull my boat and I like to pull my RV. But at the end of the day, I know what my impact is. So I bought a Prius because I love the fact that I can put $23 in my Prius and go 474 miles and feel pretty smart about what I'm doing. So what I'm doing in my own life is I'm putting those practices into place. In my business, I'm making sure that, for example, on the construction job site, you know, my wife complains about me always reverting back to what I know the best, which is construction, but I like to talk about that because that's what I know. On our projects, we put filter fabric over all of our inlets, our storm drains. That way, when the chemicals, the construction chemicals are going into our storm drains, they're hopefully not going out into the ocean, which I happen to surf on Saturdays. When we're recycling them, when we have our material, our lumber, and all of our construction materials, we're putting them in the recyclable bins. And I'm making sure that, well, hopefully I'm making sure, but you just never know. Sometimes you miss stuff. We're hoping that these things are going to recyclable areas where they're actually recycling the wood, and recycling the paper, recycling the tile, and what have you. That's important to us as a business model because it makes us feel good, and also we know that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. As mayor of the city of Whittier, and I'm only one of 5, and Ms. Newcomer knows, we are changing our model. We are especially sensitive to how we approach the new construction methods. There's a new construction requirement from California called Cal Green. Jonathan, I'm sure that you're very familiar with it. And it requires that you have some of these sustainable methods in your construction as well. Higher SEER windows, higher SEER HVAC systems. Those are all requirements that are required of the builders nowadays anyways. But what we're saying is we're encouraging as a city that they look at solar adaptability or solar construction from the beginning. That's important to us. That's what we look to do. We have a new project coming up in the city of Whittier called Nellis. That developer has already claimed, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to make him do it, that he will be adhering to all the Cal Green requirements, and that will require higher SEER HVAC systems, higher energy windows also, and this new cool roof thing. Now you've got me thinking about how we, how we apply that. That's some great ideas. And cool streets as well. I wasn't familiar with the cool streets. It's great, great information. So I'm learning something every day.